Hey, what's up guys? Matt with Fast Guppies here. Today we're going to be talking about oil and pushrod V8 engines. Here specifically we have a Hemi 6.1 liter. It's going to go into a Chrysler 300C, but the principles we're talking about work with most American pushrod V8 engines. So first step in the oil path is going to be your pickup screen, pickup tube, which goes here into the oil pump. From the oil pump, it's going to get pushed into the oil galleries here, which first feed off into the crankshaft bearings here. So we've got the main bearings and the rod bearings. These are what have the most effect on your oil pressure and volume. And they're one of the biggest considerations when you're trying to decide what oil pressures do I need to go with? Do I need to change out my pressure relief spring? What volume oil pump should I go with? From there, oil will typically go to some type of cam sprayers, and then it'll get fed into lifters. And then from the lifters, in the top of the engine, oil first flows into the lifters, out of the lifters into a push rod. You might have thought that a push rod is not hollow, but it is in fact hollow. There's a small hole in here where oil flows through a hole in the top of the lifter, through the rod into the rocker assembly. There's different versions of these and all sorts of different types of push rod engines, like the LS has individual rocker arms. Here we have a whole assembly, and you'll see here in the B-roll that oil flows up through little holes here and will actually spray to the top of the valve. It'll cool the spring and also lubricate that area between the top of the rocker and or the bottom of the rocker and the top of the valve. So the name of the game with oil is you don't actually have any metal to metal surfaces in the engine that touch. So especially with your bearings down here in the bottom of the engine, if metal actually ever touched metal, they would wear out and your engine would fail within probably minutes or seconds, depending what type of engine and pressures you're running. So oil is supposed to keep a small, thin layer between any metal to metal contact. So it's obviously, we all know it's very important to have oil, but there's a lot of considerations that go into how you're going to fabricate your oil system or decide what parts you want in your oil system as you build your performance engine. Most street cars you'll see with 30 to 40 psi of oil pressure. Race cars you typically see 70 to 80 psi of oil pressure, and there's a lot of factors that go into that, but a great rule of thumb is 10 psi of oil pressure for every 1,000 RPM. So if you want to rev to 7,500 RPM, you should have 75 pounds of oil pressure. That's a great place to start without indicating complexities of calculations and things like that. Now, oil volume. Typically, most builders, myself included, like to see 8 to 12 gallons a minute of oil flow. Now, you might want to see more oil flow if you have a lot of things that are in the oil path. So, like we talked about the bearings, if you're going to have big gaps, big clearances, you're going to want more oil flow to deal with that without pressure dropping. Another thing that could be in the oil path is, do you have a turbo that's going to get an oil feed and return? Do you have a big oil cooler that's going to have an oil feed and return in it? Things like that are going to determine whether or not you need a high volume or standard volume oil pump, and your builder can help you decide exactly what it is that you need. Now, in the oil pump, especially in high performance oil pumps, we like to use Manley pumps. What they are, they start off life as a Melling oil pump. Manley takes them apart, hand ports them, blueprints them, and the reason they do this is they're looking for the least cavitation, no aeration of the oil, and the least parasitic draw on your crankshaft as possible, while giving you the maximum performance out of the oiling system. Now, most Melling pumps will come with this nice Allen key here, where you can open this up and actually switch out the spring that goes to your oil pressure relief valve. And what this does is, most oil pumps, and these included, have the capability to produce anywhere from 150 and up, to 300 psi maybe of oil pressure. That's obviously way too much oil pressure for most systems. And so what that pressure relief valve does is, even at the lowest of RPMs, this pump is creating the pressure that it needs. But as you increase RPM, instead of just blowing pressures through the roof and having oil leaks and problems like that everywhere, this pressure relief valve starts to bypass that extra pressure of oil back into the oil pan to be reused and recirculated as you go through the rest of the oil path. So how do you decide your pressure? Like I said, 10 psi for 1,000 RPMs is a great place to start. And your springs, your spring kits that come with your oil pump that you give your builder, they'll help you determine which spring is going to do which pressure. Like I said, this is a Hemi 6.1 going into a Chrysler 300. They like to have right at 65 psi. So we put in the purple spring, which happens to be about 65 PSI in this case. And so this is going to be set up and ready to go. We've got all sorts of, we're going to start trying to do more of these series, talking about some of the stuff that we do here in the shop to help you guys understand what's going on and how we make the decisions we do whenever we have your car, if that's the case. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so you can see more like this. Have a great day.